Do you want a track guy or do you want a football player? This is RamView.
It's hot out there, but let's blow them off the line of scrimmage. Headline, Los Angeles.
Live from the Ram Cave, I'm Joe Terosian, and this is RamView, the March 4th, 2024 edition, brought to you by Kistler Law Firm. Injured in an auto accident? Need help? Got questions? Call Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. That's Kistler Law at 661-206-6990. And check out KistlerLawFirm.com. That's one word. KistlerLawFirm.com. Kistler Law, they've been fighting for you since 92. And by Temple City Auto Repair. Having some auto issues? Get yourself some John and Henry at TempleCityAutoRepair.com. And of course, by Granite Ridge Christian Camp, a place where your life can change. So Xavier Worthy runs a 4.2 or whatever it was that he ran in that 40-yard dash the other day, and automatically he's in the first round. Right, this guy was trending mid second round, and because he ran really fast, they put him there. Can I just, as Ram fans, we know we appreciated him. Ron Brown was really fast, but the guy that Everett always went to was Henry Ellard, right? The guy that replaced him was Flipper Anderson, but Ron Brown was really fast. Returned a few kicks for touchdowns. He was more of a football player than, say, Johnny Lamb Jones. Anyone remember him with the Jets? You bring these guys in that can run really fast, but are they football players? Tyreek Hill's really fast, and everyone's trying to find the next Tyreek Hill, but Tyreek Hill is a football player. And we're just talking about recency bias all the time, right? And do you think, honestly, that Xavier Worthy's going in the first round of the draft? I would be stunned if that kid ended up in the first round. All right, so we got that out of the way. I did enjoy the Combine. I love watching it. Of course, I like the interviews better. I like some of that stuff that you see take place in and around the actual events. I like the throwing. I like that stuff. But yeah, I just like the interviews quite a bit. It gives you a little insight to some of these players because you've got tape on all of them, right? Everyone's got tape. High school players got tape, right? So moving on to the Rams stuff, I want to talk more about the Rams and their draft and everything on the back half of the show. But the thing that keeps bubbling up is Joe Noteboom. And excuse me, Joe Noteboom, we all know is a 20 cap hit. You cut him, you only get $5 million. You cut him after June 1st, you save a bunch of money, but you're kind of losing a guy that can start for you along the offensive line when you need him to. And everyone's crying it's too much to pay a backup. I agree with that, except this. I would think of it this way. I would think of Noteboom more as your sixth starter. He can plug in anywhere along the offensive line except for center. That's an invaluable piece, right? And I'm not telling you anything I haven't shared before, but the Rams Super Bowl window is open. And so my question is, you get rid of Noteboom. Are you going to get somebody in the draft that's going to play at his level? Because he's an NFL offensive lineman. He's not Bobby Evans, right? He's not Bobby Evans. Joe Noteboom has played and has played competently in the NFL. And so if you're going to do that, that means you're going to use your first round pick on an offensive tackle, which I don't got a problem with, or you may move up, as some Ram folks were talking about, Rams casters and content people were talking this weekend, Jake Ellenbogen being one of them, talking about the Rams moving up for Joe Alt at Notre Dame. And Alt is the first tackle off the board in every mock draft that you see, and he didn't do anything to hurt himself this weekend. So, but other than that, unless you're going to do something like that, who are the Rams going to take that could be at Noteboom's level, right? And will anyone deal for him at that price, right? You might have to give a draft pick or two for someone to take his salary, right? And then will you get anything you want in a salary dump? So instead of making him take a pay cut, this was what popped into my head. He restructured last year, and I think they voided those years that were still ahead of him. Why don't you add 2 more years? Don't ask him to take a pay cut. That's no one's going to take a pay cut. I wouldn't take a pay cut, but see if his salary, if he'd be willing to renegotiate and restructure to see if maybe the 20 rocks owed to him can be spread out a little bit. And that way the cap hit is not as severe each of these remaining years, right? Instead of 20 million, you're on the hook for 7 million. And that's a little more palatable, right? Noteboom's turning 29 this year. Career earnings are at 28 rocks. That's with bonuses and everything. So he's made some money, but at 29, he hasn't established himself as somebody that's really going to go out there and be a killer for you, right? So he does perform a service for the Rams. So if they could do it, how would you feel about the Rams keeping him at 20 rocks, but taking that 20 rocks and spreading it out over 2 more years? Because he does do something for us. He brings value to the team. And for Noteboom, why wouldn't you? I'm turning 29. I'm having a chance to go to my 3rd Super Bowl with the Rams and possibly play. There's a really good chance he's going to play this year, right? Hagenstein's getting old. Alaric Jackson has proven that he is very mortal. He can miss time. And then he also has experience at guard, Noteboom does. And so yeah, why not try to figure out a way to manipulate his his draft structure, or I'm sorry, his cap structure, and keep him around, right? I don't know. Just thought I'd throw that out there. That was cooking in my brain over the weekend. Had some nice responses to the Daniel Hunter post I did on Friday. A lot of some smart folks were talking about how he's better suited to a 4-3 alignment, almost like Joey Bosa or Nick Bosa. He doesn't do much in coverage, but he is an elite pass rusher. And so there's a reason that maybe you find out what he can do. I'm not talking a long-term contract with him. PFF projects him at 65 rocks for 3 years, only 40 guaranteed. But you could pay him those first 2 years and then kick him to the curb, a la Leonard Floyd, if you want to, after the 3rd year, if he starts to fade or the Super Bowl window starts to close. Wanted to throw that out there one more time. But thank you, folks, for those that responded to that. Around the NFL and other places, Mike Evans signed with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. That's good news for the Bucs that he stays in house. Good news for Baker Mayfield. He only signed 2 years for 52 rocks, 35 guaranteed. But that is a big deal. That's a good deal for the Buccaneers. There was a report that the Rams were looking at him. I wouldn't look at him for 2 years, 52, right? I think the Rams you can get value, like we said. One of the mock drafts we looked at, there are 17 receivers projected to go in the first 100, 21 receivers to go in the first 4 rounds. So there's value out there at receiver that doesn't cost as much money. 49ers have hired Nick Sorensen as their new DC and Brandon Staley as their assistant coach, who replaced Anthony Lynn. Sorensen hung around the NFL for a decade, even played for the Rams in St. Louis. He's a special teams player. If you saw the Jaguars version, it wasn't exactly Hard Knocks, but it was something like that. You saw Sorensen in there, and then after his career was over, he spent 8 years in Seattle. That's the part that's interesting about Sorensen, is that he's been with Frisco. He's been in the NFC West for a long time, so he is familiar with Sean McVay, and that'll be something to keep an eye on. Does he have something in his back pocket that he thinks will work when playing the Rams? Regarding the combine, there were big hits. Quinyon Mitchell, the Florida State DT, Braden Fisk. They did really well. Of course, the world blew up with Xavier Worthy's record performance. Not to diminish it, I wasn't diminishing the kid. He ran so fast, he didn't even look. They should recast him as the Flash. He was unbelievable. But again, I go back to fastest guy doesn't mean the best guy. And I thought the contrast was Florida State wide receiver Keon Coleman. Now, Keon Coleman has been projected late in the first round, and he does everything everybody likes. He does everything. He's 6'4", 215, good route runner, but they made a big deal about him only running a 4.6 40, right? And I think most Ram fans would know that if you're a good route runner, right? If you're a good route runner and you're in the proper scheme, you're going to get wide open, right? It doesn't make any difference if you're running a 4.3 40 or a 4.6 40. I can remember when a 4.5 40 was the gold standard. Okay, so you're running a 4.5. That's all you wanted to know. That's all you wanted to know. Could he run a 4.5? And now, of course, you're into the 4.3s and everything else. And so I don't know if Keon Coleman is still around at number 52 for the Rams to take. I think I take a swing at him on that one. Michael Penix had a very good combine, threw the ball really well. He ran a 4.5 40, and people are concerned about his athleticism after 2 ACLs. And Michael Penix looked pretty good. Of course, Jackson Powers Johnson. He's at the top of another mock draft for the Rams. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But Jackson Powers Johnson looks like a guy, much like Avila, that he can come in and he could start day one. And no one's going to complain about that. I thought Jason Kelsey had already retired, but they had the big retirement thing for him today. It bored me. I turned it off. But Jason Kelsey officially retired. Russell Wilson has been officially notified that at the start of the new league season on March 13th, he'll be kicked to the curb. And boy, the Broncos are ready to eat a lot of dirt, a lot of money on that. And so I'm sure the bump in the NFL salary cap helped that decision. And then, of course, Joe Burrow, that name came up. I saw Joe Burrow. It says he'll be I saw a report that says he'll be cleared to resume football duties in mid-May. I mean, think how long ago Joe Burrow went out with those torn ligaments or torn ligament in his wrist, and he has not been doing anything. And I'm sure he's been running and all that kind of stuff, but he's not resuming football duties till mid-May. And yeah, I thought that was something to consider there, especially if you're in Cincy and you get really worked up about those things about Joe Burrow being healthy. That's a huge deal. And then I was flipping channels and I came across Colin Cowherd, and he was talking trash about Magic Johnson, and he wasn't really talking trash about Magic Johnson, but he was talking about, because again, he's on the payroll for Taylor Swift and LeBron James, and he was just talking about how great LeBron James is, and he was talking about how much of a better 3-point shooter, and that Magic really didn't shoot. I was like, no, Magic could shoot 3-pointers. That wasn't the league in those days, but Magic can shoot 3-pointers. If you saw Magic Johnson play, you knew Magic Johnson can shoot. And here's the other thing, the difference between LeBron James and Magic Johnson. When the game's on the line, Magic wanted the ball. Magic wanted the ball because Magic was a bit of a killer on the court, and LeBron James wasn't much of a killer at all. All right, let's get to the break here. I'm Joe Terosian. I was a sports writer for 21 years. Still am kind of, and now I do RamView thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law. I also write books. My books are on Amazon. You can check them out. Type in Joe Terosian, and you'll see them there. And that's how I support myself now, because I do it because my day job is I pastor a small church in Burbank called Burbank Faith Nazarene, and we have a website or a channel right here on YouTube at Burbank Faith Virtual, and is of course a website, burbankfaithvirtual.com, and we're all across social media, so you can check us out there. I was one of the founding members at Mid Valley Sports, and those guys, Tim and Dwayne, are still in the room while I get to do this, again, thanks to our sponsors at Kistler Law. All right. Manuel Correa, how's it going? Thank you. It's going well. I got some kind of weird cough all of a sudden. I don't know what it was. Manuel Correa, no receivers with number 19. The thing about that, Manuel, is I think it would be kind of exciting if the Rams really spent draft capital on a plus receiver, but the draft is so deep that the Rams is so deep. The draft is so deep that you don't need to take a guy at 19 because they're going to be there all 3 days. Let's see. Tim Burns, happy Monday, Joe. Are we trading up? Meeting with Odunze is odd, and a wide receiver for us in the first round seems unlikely. with the re-signing of Robinson. Yeah, kind of answering that right now a little bit there. They did meet with Odunze, but you meet with everybody, right? And it gives you a chance to figure out what kind of personality they have. I think Odunze had a great combine just in terms of showing his work ethic and everything, because it's a battle between him and Malik Neighbors to see who goes as the second receiver. Everyone's going to take Marvin Harrison first, and that looks like it's going to be Arizona. But Rome Odunze had a really good combine in terms of his interviews, in terms of everything. So I'm sure the Rams are just doing some due diligence. I don't see the Rams. If the Rams move up, I kind of like the hypothesis that they're going to go after a Joe Alt from Notre Dame. Manuel Correa, did you see Marshawn Nealon and Austin Booker's edge at combine? I know of Austin Booker, but I didn't see him. But Marshawn Nealon, that dude is shooting up the boards. You asked me to look. I think you were the one that was asking me to look them up. And this guy is projecting into the third round now. 6'3", 275 out of Western Michigan. Marshawn Nealon, yeah, that is definitely a name to keep an eye on. What about trying? This is from Tim Burns. What about trying for cornerback Howard Fa Miami? Had 10 inch. You know what? I have not looked him up, and I will look him up now. Also from Tim Burns. Word is we may trade one of our sevens to the Jets for Zach Wilson. I would rather snag Hartman and see if McVay works his magic. I have seen Zach already. The only thing I would say to that is I would say no, absolutely no, unless, oh yeah, Sean McVay's our head coach. So then I'll say yes. We didn't. Did you expect anything from Baker Mayfield when he came in? We didn't, right? I think we were hoping a little bit from Wentz, and Wentz did well. If it only costed us, if it cost us something really cheap, we don't have a 7th round pick. It would have to be a future 7th round pick for Zach Wilson. And I'm going to talk about quarterbacks here on the other side of the break. But I wouldn't like it, but then again, we have to trust. I would rather go with a Hartman as well. But yeah, Zach Wilson has a lot of talent, and if there's anybody, that would be his last chance, right? His last chance. If McVay can't fix you, nobody can. All right, Tim Burns, NFL lists 4.48 the target time for a wide receiver in the league. This year, 23 wide receivers ran faster than 4.48 the combine. This is a deep draft, Joe T. It absolutely is, Mr. Tim Burns. It absolutely is. Okay, what's your prediction? This is from Bill. What's your prediction about Noteboom's future with the Rams? I don't know if it can be done, but as I opened the show with, it would be kind of cool if they could add a couple years to that contract and spread those 20 rocks over the next few years, appeal to Joe Noteboom and say, hey, man, we're going to the Super Bowl again. Do you want to come along with the ride and be a three-timer in terms of going to the Super Bowl? I don't think anyone's going to take his contract. They're going to wait for the Rams to release him. So there's not going to be a deal done. And, I can say what I want to say. I wish they would figure out some way to make this work. I know 20 rocks is a lot, but the Rams were pretty fortunate last year in terms of injuries. But Havenstein is getting a year older. This will be his 10th year. And Alaric Jackson has proven mortal. So, is there anybody outside of a Joe Alt or a Fashiono out of Penn State, or one of these kids from Oregon or Oregon State or Washington, Fanagua and Talise, or Fatanu and Talisi Fuagua out of Oregon State? Are there any one of those guys really? Are we going to get our hands on them? So my feeling is find a way to make it work out with Noteboom. See if you could get that contract spread out a little bit. And such, I think it's crazy to ask a guy to take a pay cut. I think it's just crazy. I don't know if they're going to. Tim Burns, Labalco. Oh yeah, that's going around now, huh? The steroids with LeBron James. Tim Burns, Labalco James managers' names showed up in court proceedings back in the 20-teens in the Balco case, right about the time his body went bulky. You know what? In this culture now, do you think anyone's going to care? I'm just curious. Do you think anyone's going to care? Is he going to get the Lance Armstrong treatment? I don't know if that's going to happen to him. Dwayne Barker, with Shelton looking to go free agency, he is. Yeah, he opted. Rams need a center more than Odunze. I ain't going to argue that with you. I'm not going to argue that. I think that Odunze was, let's just check it out. Let's go see, right? let's go see. I mean, when we were younger, we bought Sports Illustrated. We knew we were never going to date those girls, but we wanted to see, right? That was back in the day when I was younger. But Dwayne Barker comes back with, and with a last name that includes Powers, you should be a fan. Oh, he wants Jackson Powers Johnson. Yeah, Jackson Powers Johnson is if the Rams drafted Jackson Powers Johnson, I'm going to tell you right now, I'm not going to have a problem with it. As I was flipping the stations, and again, this is some of the KBM. They do this, and it kind of ticks me off. As Colin Cowherd, and it could be all of the KB. I'm just using Cowherd as the example today. He's just talking about the Magic Johnson thing a little bit. Your team could end up drafting a guard or a tackle, and it's not real sexy. Football fans might not like that. Well, let me tell you, Colin Cowherd doesn't know football fans. If you're a football fan, you'll love the idea that your team drafted an offensive lineman. You'd love it. I think Ram fans would be happy with the Jackson Powers Johnson. I do. I really do. I think Ram fans that are here, Ram fans that are legit out there would go crazy over Jackson Powers Johnson. And I just hate this where they assume that we're all, that every fan out there is somebody that's at a sports bar that is just pounding suds and not really understanding the nuance of the game. And here's the greatness of the Rams right now is the Rams have been so great in this McSnead era that you're forced to see how good and nuanced your team is. Bill, I think we should either draft a wide receiver early on or sign Calvin Ridley because Kupp is injury prone. I agree that Kupp, I have reservations about Cooper Kupp, but again, I think you can get that receiver, in the back end of the first 100, and on through. So if they're going to make a splash, they'll make a splash, right? But there's so many good receivers. The kid. Was it Roman Wilson from who's the kid from Michigan? He made a great impression at the draft, at the combine too. So it would be interesting. All right, let's see. Aza 50 Jaffa, welcome to the show. I never met you before. I don't think we've talked, but how about Note Boom for Zach Wilson if he doesn't want to spread out his contract? Hey, you know what? You're going to have to do something, right? You know what? Yeah. And who's hungry for some offensive linemen? The Jets. That's not a bad speculation there, Asa. That's not bad at all. That'd be fun to see. But it's just taking on that salary. Most of the draft I'm seeing is projecting the Jets to take Brock Bowers. It'll be interesting to see what they think about drafting a tackle or Fashanu from Penn State. But yeah, they can get Zach Wilson off their hands, which I don't think they're too worried about. And get a competent NFL offensive lineman. That's an interesting take. Manuel Correa, in my mocks, Jackson Powers Johnson falls to the Rams. Yeah, I've seen that a lot too. Remember Rick Shaw and Doug Smith? Oh yeah, thanks for talking to the show, man. We've talked a lot about that. How for over 20, almost 30 seasons, 27 seasons, the Rams had 3 centers. Right, they had Ken Iman, Rick Shaw, and Doug Smith, and they were. That's why the Rams' offensive lines were so great for so long. Steeler fan Rob in Missouri, we are going to get Jackson Powers Johnson. Oh, okay. And your quarterback's going to be Kenny Pickett. Is that who your quarterback's going to be? Steve Ramirez, great sports writer, Steve Ramirez. I still lean toward edge or CB at 19 if the Rams trade down, even if they get Hunter. I can see the Rams trading down. It's the Rams, right? We can see that. For some reason, I just don't want an edge at 19. Take an edge later on in the first 100 with those 4 picks that you got in the first 100 of the draft. But I could see a corner. Yeah, I absolutely could see a corner. It'll be interesting as we get closer and closer to the 13th. Who's out there, who gets signed, and who gets re-signed in this. Okay, Steeler fan Rob, Ram fans, you're watching this. Steeler fan Rob wants to dance with Kenny Pickett this year. Do you think that's a good idea? Let him know. Speaking of quarterbacks, let's look at the Rams quarterback room right now. And that quarterback room is kind of lonely because you got Matthew Stafford, who is 36 with a Super Bowl ring, and I believe he's one of the greatest ever. It's so fortunate for us. You saw the highlights in Detroit, but to see him week in and week out with the Rams, you understand what a great quarterback he is. The other quarterbacks that are kind of semi on the roster, you got Dresser, Wynn, and Stetson Bennett. Okay, let's move on from there. And it really boils down to Carson Wentz. Does he want to stay with the Rams as a backup, or does he think he has a shot at being a starter? So where is he going to be a starter? If you look at the AFC, you got teams that might need a starting quarterback: Patriots, Steelers, Titans, Raiders. Well, the Patriots, they're probably going to take a Drake May or a Jaden Daniels, whoever falls to them. Steeler fan Rob says they're going to stick with Kenny Pickett. Right on, there you go. Titans are going to give Will Levis a shot, and the Raiders. The Raiders could be an option, but you wonder what the Raiders are thinking long term in terms of they need a quarterback. They do. That could be an option, but I don't know. In the NFC, who do you got, right? Basically, the NFC, you got the Vikings and the Falcons. That's it, right? And where's Justin Fields going to go? I would have thought he'd gone to the Falcons already. We're going to see. And then the Vikings, because Kirk Cousins is leaving, or are they going to pay Kirk Cousins and keep him there? The market for Carson Wentz to be a starting quarterback somewhere is kind of thin. And if he's going to be a backup quarterback anywhere, why wouldn't he want to do it with the Rams? And on top of that, rehabilitate his reputation. He's made huge money. And so that's my goal there, is that we don't have to draft a quarterback, but I really, really want Carson Wentz back. If Wentz leaves, I would be tempted to take a quarterback in the first 100. If he stays, then we can look at the back of the draft. I don't want to fiddle around with the Jacoby Brissett. I don't want to fiddle around with Gardner Minshew. Gardner Minshew should just re-sign in Indy because he's going to play, because the Richardson kid, it's going to take time for him to learn how to play without getting beat up, right? And so, Sam Darnold, I don't know, I guess, but that's kind of playing it cheap because he ain't going to cost you anything. If Michael Penix or somebody like that should fall, a Bo Nix should fall, then I would look at somebody at 52. I really honestly would, if I can't get Wentz. And we're going to find out. New season starts March 13th. Draft is at the end of April. So what do you got? Got 6 weeks to figure out who the backup's going to be. 5th round prospects, if nobody drops, that kind of like stood out a little bit. Joe Milton at Tennessee. Keaton Slovis actually had a good combine. And then the name that Tim Burns brought up, Sam Hartman. I've always been partial to Sam Hartman. I think is a little better talented Stetson Bennett with a better arm, but I could be wrong. The Rams have interviewed a Washington edge runner, Braylon Trice, 6'4", 274, 28 games, 17 sacks. Also, they interviewed Texas off-ball linebacker Jalen Ford, 6'3", 242. Now, he's good against the run, not great against the pass. Last summer, he looked like a 3rd rounder. Right now, he's projecting 7th round. And then, of course, we talked about it. You guys had it before I even mentioned it. Rome Odunze interviewed with the Rams. And again, that's just a checkout, right? They're just checking him out. Rams, of course, have picks at 19, 52, 83, and 100. And then in the 5th round, they got 153, 154, 177. And in the 6th round, 191, 212, 217, and 218. No 7th round picks this year. No Ben Skoronix coming to this club unless they pick up a 7th rounder along the way. Former LA Times staff writer. I don't know. Is he not LA Times anymore? I think he's Yahoo. Sam Farmer put out a mock draft. Of course, Caleb Williams going number 1 to Chicago. Jaden Daniels seems to have passed Drake May. They have him going to Washington. And then Farmer instituted a little trade here between Atlanta and New England and had the Falcons taking Drake May. And that would be marvelous for us because that would take the Falcons off the board in trying to take Carson Wentz. Marvin Harrison going 4 to Arizona. Joe Alt coming to SoFi, but playing in a Bolt uniform, going to the Chargers at number 5. Odunze projected to go to the Giants at number 6. Olu Fashanu had a thigh injury at the combine for Penn State, but they project him going to the Titans at number 7. Farmer projected a trade between New England and who was it? Oh, was it Atlanta again? Oh yeah, that was the trade. And then the Chargers, the Patriots would take J.C. Latham. He's the tackle out of Alabama. Malik Neighbors going 9 to the Bears. Brock Bowers 10th to the Jets. I've seen that more than once. Alabama edge Dallas Turner going to the Vikings. J.J. McCarthy going to the Broncos. Quinyon Mitchell, no secret now about Quinyon Mitchell. At 13, going to the Raiders. 15, Cooper DeJean, Latu Latu. Cooper DeJean going to the Colts. Latu going to Seattle, and then the Rams taking Jackson Powers Johnson at 19. I'm trying to speed through this right here. And then you go through the rest of the draft here. You got Kool-Aid McKinstry dropping to 29 to the Lions. In some drafts, he's out of the first round. And now out of the first round is Keon Coleman because of his 40 time. Troy Franklin from Oregon now in the top 32 there going to the Chiefs. That would be a heck of a pick for the Chiefs. But no Bo Nix, no Michael Penix in that first round. And it'll be interesting to see where they go. Also, no Chop Robinson in that first round. And I'm wondering because Chop Robinson had a pretty good combine himself. What else we got here? Let's just take a look at a few other things. Rams, we're breaking down the schedule. We've looked at the 49ers, Cardinals, Seahawks, Bears, Lions. Rams are playing the Patriots in Gillette this year. Depending on his health, they got Matthew Judon back, but who's the quarterback? Are they going to take a Drake May? Are they going to make a deal and move down? Are they going to sign somebody? It's kind of curious. You don't know where the Patriots are at. They do have cap space, but they got the same old game plan. I don't know why they hired Gerard Mayo. They had a chance to do something completely different and get a new, fresh start, and instead they got Bill Belichick. His influence is still there in that locker room, and because Gerard Mayo was one of his favorites. And I just think that was a bad move by the Patriots hiring Gerard Mayo. I see 10 losses for this team. Not only do they got to play the Bills, Dolphins, and the Jets, at home and away, but at home they've got the Texans, no easy out, Colts, no easy out, Rams, no easy out, Seahawks, no easy out, Chargers, no easy out, right? On the road, they get the Cardinals. Jaguars are going to be better. 49ers, Titans, Bengals with Joe Burrow, and the Bears with Caleb Williams. This is a Patriot team that's going to lose 10 games this year. If they only lose 10 games, it might be a victory if they finish 7-10. All right, let's see what we got here.
It was a stone group.
No, not done yet. Not done yet. We're not finished. Let's see here. Manuel Correa, I promise I will post a mock draft on Friday. I'll give you guys a mock draft on Friday, but don't hesitate to send me yours. Okay, on this date, March 4th in Ram history, on this date, they hired former Packer wide receiver Boyd Dowler as an assistant coach. Should know that name. Boyd Dowler then left the Rams with George Allen to go to Washington, but he also came out of retirement and played 12 games for the Skins in 1971, catching 26 passes before retiring again, a year before they went to the Super Bowl. On this date in 2010, the Rams released Claude Roten, for the final time. Roten was a third-round pick in 2006 out of LSU for the Rams. He was a defensive tackle. He wore number 99. And in a deal with Denver in the 2006 draft, the Rams had the number 11 overall pick. And they moved back. And this is why I'm bringing it up, because when you move back, it doesn't always work out. The Rams had number 11. And the Broncos wanted to move up to that spot. So they swapped spots, and the Rams picked up a third rounder. So the Rams moved back to number 15 and got a third-round pick who turned out to be Claude Roten, who was a bust. And the 15th overall pick was Ty Hill, cornerback, and he was a bust too. And the Broncos moved up and got Jay Cutler, who turned out of Matt Leinart and Vince Young. Jay Cutler turned out to be the best quarterback in the 2006 draft. Roten never started a game for the Rams, and the Rams got 1.5 sacks out of him. Spent his career in the Arena League and a little bit in Canada. Just wanted to throw that out there. Happy birthday to Jordan Fuller today. Jordan Fuller is 26. Now, when you're thinking about re-signing Jordan Fuller, he's 26. You're going to give him a 3-year contract? You're going to give him a second contract that'll take him up to close to his 30th birthday? No, I think Jordan Fuller's days as a Ram are over. Thank you for everything he has done, but he is moving on. Tomorrow, since we're not on the air, I'm going to share this one. Dick Vermeil on this day tomorrow, March the 5th in 1970, resigned as special teams coach with the Rams. George Allen had brought him in. And Marv Levy was hired as special teams coach. Vermeil became the OC of the New England Patriots for a year, and then eventually came back in 1971 under Tommy Prothro. Prior to the Rams, Marv Levy, who went on to Buffalo fame, right? He was the head coach at University of New Mexico, Cal, and William Mary, and was the kickers coach with the Eagles in 1969. And he left with George Allen to Washington in 1971. And this was the Marv Levy who is now in the Hall of Fame, along with Dick Vermeil, special teams coach. I thought that was kind of interesting. And finally, I want to remember Roman Phifer. Roman Phifer tomorrow turns 56 years old. He was drafted by the Rams, second round, 31st overall in 1991 out of UCLA. Maybe Steve Ramirez remembers him. And he played 8 seasons for the Rams, just completely lost from 91 through 98, right? Those dark years before the Rams left for St. Louis, those dark years when they first got to St. Louis, Roman Phifer covered those years wearing number 58 as an outside linebacker for the Rams. He appeared in 120 games, 109 starts, played 2 seasons for the Jets. He signed on this day in 1999. He signed on this day to leave the Rams and went with the Jets. So he missed getting a ring with the Super Bowl 34 team. After the 2000 season, the Jets released Phifer, and Phifer played against the Rams in Super Bowl 36 and got a ring. He also got a ring in Super Bowl 38 and Super Bowl 39 with New England. So he missed 1 ring with the Rams, and he got 3 with New England. Just remembering Roman Phifer, not a Hall of Famer, not an All-Pro, but a really steady performer for the Rams during a dark period. And I thought it was worth mentioning him. Okay, I know we got a couple of questions that are out there. Manuel Correa, what's the mock draft for the Rams? I'll try to put one out on Friday. I'm hesitant to do it before the new season begins and free agency, but I'll put one out for fun. Manuel Correa, let's do a mock show. Yes, a mock show. How do I do that? You guys give me ideas on how to do that. And do I just go live and let you guys make the picks? I'd be fun to mess around with that, kind of like a supplemental show. I'd be happy to do that. Steve Garvey for Senate. Okay, I think we're crossing lines here, man. I think we're crossing lines.
Stay in your lane, bro.
We're crossing lines there, Mr. Burns. We got to stick with at least football and not baseball and politics there. So, all right, I think we got the show in. I stopped coughing, thank goodness. But everything's heating up. Everything's heating up, and I expect a wave of transactions starting in about a week. You're going to hear more of I think in the March 11th is you get a 48-hour window where you can start tampering, right? Where you can start talking to other teams and players and such. And so we're going to get a clearer picture as the days run closer. I will check out Owen Porter from Marshall on the edge, Manuel Correa. I promise. You guys drop a name there. I promise I will check it out because you didn't steer me wrong with Marshawn Neeland. So I think we're good. I think it's all set. Yeah. All right. Guys, thank you so much for clicking on. And I appreciate it. I appreciate the support. We are at a place now where we never thought we'd be. We want to say thank you to our sponsors at Kistler Law and for everyone supporting us. And our numbers are picked up. God bless. Take care. And we will talk to you soon.